Good evening, Rabbi Dr Lionel Mirvis, Rabbi Mirvis, Chief Rabbi Ephraim Mirvis, Chief Rabbi of the United Kingdom and Commonwealth, to Anne Harris, distinguished Rabbonim, ladies and gentlemen, friends. It really is a great honor and a pleasure to welcome you this evening on behalf of Beit Midrash Morasha to the launch of the Daroma School of Torah for the Future and the inaugural lecture, the launch event. We will have the great pleasure of hearing from Chief Rabbi Mirvis, I'll mention in a minute, and an introduction from Rabbi Dr Lionel Mirvis to the course that he will be giving over the next few weeks. And I want to start with a few thank yous. An evening of this nature has, as you can imagine, a tremendous amount of work that goes into it, and a huge amount of generosity of spirit that really makes it what it is. And I want to thank Rabbi Dr Lionel and Raison, to thank Chief Rabbi Ephraim Mirvis for really creating this evening and for giving of themselves and of their time. Rabbi Mirvis, Chief Rabbi Mirvis, really here on a personal visit, but nonetheless so free and so generous to offer up, to inspire and to give us vision and guidance for the future, and that is something that we so appreciate. Thank you so very, very much. Thank you to our chairman, Mr. Philip Weinstein, who did so much to make tonight happen. Dr. Leonard Saransky was instrumental in it, and I really am looking forward to the wonderful fruits, please God, what we'll see of tonight and of the coming weeks, and please God for weeks and months and years to come from the Torah that we are starting to study together tonight. The Mishnah in Pirkei Avot says, "Da lifnei mi ata omed," know before whom you stand. And it is really a lesson to us that when we stand in prayer before Hashem, we should know before whom we stand. But I think the converse applies as well. Da mi omed lefanecha, know who stands before you. When we have the privilege, as we do, of a guest such as Chief Rabbi Mirvis, it's very important to spend a few minutes getting to know the Chief Rabbi, so to speak, with a short introduction to who he is, what he's achieved, and why it really is so appropriate that he should share this vision for us of the role of shuls, of communities. We live in such a different world today to the world in which our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents lived. And the role of communities and the role of shuls is something that is changing and that will continue to change. And Rabbi Mirvis is somebody who I think is uniquely suited to speak to that change, both in terms of his history and connection. If I can remind you to please switch your cell phones at this point. Both in terms of his history and connection, coming from an esteemed rabbinic family, growing up in his father and mother's home, and as well as the experiences that he's had, knowing our community here, having studied, as we know, at Herzliya, his time in Israel, and his exposure both to Israeli yeshivas in Kerem B'Yavneh, Yeshivat Har Etzion, Machon Ariel, as well as his time teaching in Israel, his qualification from Herzog Teachers College, as well as his very broad and very deep community experience. Rabbi Mirvis not only served as a rabbi of the Dublin Hebrew congregation in Ireland, but also the chief rabbi of Ireland for 8 years. He was the senior rabbi at Finchley United Synagogue, which many know as the Kinless Shul, between 1996 and 2013. So for 17 years, served in a very major shul, where he built a reputation as one of the UK's most respected community leaders, with some really amazing projects. The Kinless Learning Centre, one that I feel particularly close to my heart, the Morasha Jewish Primary School in Finchley, the Kinless Community Kollel, not because I've been there, but because of the name, the Kinless Community Kollel, and the Kinless community became the fastest growing community in the UK, which really speaks to the value of what it was that Rabbi Mirvis built there, and how he had the ability to show the value of Torah and of community and of shuls to the generation. As we know, since 2013, he was appointed as Chief Rabbi of the United Kingdom and Commonwealth, which has 139 shuls officially affiliated with it, and many scores of other shuls throughout the UK and Commonwealth that really look to Chief Rabbi Mirvis for guidance, and he has done several amazing things in that position as well. For example, even before he was Chief Rabbi in 2012, appointing the first Yoetzet Halacha, the first female halachic advisor at Finchley Synagogue, and the role that the Chief Rabbi has played and is continuing to play in advancing women's issues, amongst many other things. Rabbi Mirvis also trained Chazan, qualified Shochet, and a qualified Mohel. And he has kindly offered that apart from his words tonight, he's going to demonstrate all three skills. All three skills for us this evening. We just need, okay, no, I'll leave it there. Rabbi Mirvis, the son, as you know, of Rabbi Dr Lionel Mirvis, the late Ephraim Mirvis, and Chief Rabbi Ephraim Mirvis' wife Valerie is a local authority senior social worker, carried out frontline child protection for many years, and now works in adoption. Sadly, Chief Rabbi and Mrs. Mirvis' eldest child, Leora Grain, passed away in 2011 following a long battle with cancer. But they do have 4 sons, Hillel, Daniel, Noam, and Eitan, son-in-law Jonathan, 2 daughters-in-law, Melanie and Althea, and 7 grandchildren. Please God, Cain Yirbu. And if I can just end by saying, Rabbi, that what you've demonstrated in your chief rabbinate and in your history in the rabbinate as being an innovator, as being somebody who's prepared to face the future and take risks and really move the Jewish world forward, is something that we are very pleased to benefit from here this evening. And we really look forward to hearing you, and afterwards to hearing about the new Torah school that will be starting in Cape Town. Thank you, Rabbi Mirvis.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Thurgood, for your very warm and lovely welcoming words this evening. And lovely to see Anne Harris here together with so many of you. Rabbi Thurgood, may I start by complimenting you on your outstanding spiritual leadership, together with your Rebbitzin, of this community. I've heard a lot about your achievements. Together with Philip Weinstein and others, we have a great partnership in taking this community forward. Every year, I understand, the membership is growing. Indeed, you are already going, Mechael El Chayil, from strength to strength, and I'm delighted this evening to be connected with all the good work that you are carrying out here. Having arranged some months ago to pop into Cape Town on this genuine flying visit, I'm very pleased that some advantage has been taken of my presence to enable this launch to happen tonight. And in this way, it's obviously a great pleasure for me, bearing in mind the centrality of Talmud Torah within our consciousness and within the future of the Jewish people. There is nothing better that I can do than to associate myself directly with Jewish educational initiatives. And this one, of course, has enormous personal significance for me, because the key teacher of the school that we are launching this evening is Avimori, my dear father, Rabbi Dr Lionel Mirvis, who together with Razel continue to do so much for Am Yisrael, and I owe so much to my father, so much of my learning, so much of my knowledge, my quest for community leadership, my passion for the rabbinate, my desire to be there for Am Yisrael. And it is so very special for me always to come across people who introduce themselves to me as the Talmidim of my father. I would say more than Talmidim, the Hasidim and the Hasidot, genuine followers, groupies, whatever you want to call them, whose lives have been so enhanced and so influenced by his guidance, by his Torah, by his influence, and through him being such a wonderful role model for them. And it is so wonderful for us to be launching yet another initiative in his very long and outstanding career as an educator here this evening. So I'm deriving so much huge numbers from my dad, and thank you so much for including me in this evening, to have the opportunity to be here, to be part of it, to wish my father and Rachel well in everything that they do, and to wish this community well with this initiative, which, please God, will be a roaring success, together with everything else that you're doing in the field of Jewish education. Our subject this evening is, of course, great significance and importance to us. The role of the Shul in the 21st century. It's of great importance to us in the diaspora, because the Shul, outside of our homes, is the center of our Jewish lives. It's a truism that the more one is engaged with Shul, the stronger one's Jewish identity is. This is not necessarily the case in Israel, because in Israel, Shul is primarily a place where you daven. In Israel, you're part of a Jewish country. You don't need to come to Shul to have a bracha, because you're seeing your friends all the time. You don't need to come to Shul to have Jewish culture, because that's what you're having day in and day out within the Jewish country. There is a downside to this, because we're seeing throughout our world that when Israelis leave Israel to live in the diaspora, often they fail to recognize the importance of the Shul. They bypass the Shul without realizing how crucial it should be in their lives, and as a result, some of them find themselves, unfortunately, on a fast track to assimilation. But we appreciate the Shul. And if we're going to correctly and accurately describe what a Shul is for us this evening, let us recognize the three key terms that we give to this edifice. Beit Knesset, which literally means house of gathering. The Greek word synagogue means exactly that. The second term is Beit Tefillah, house of prayer. And the third is Shul, which is the German word for school. So let's look at each one of these three terms, these three concepts, and their relevance for us today. First of all, Beit Knesset, a house of gathering. There is a parsha of the Torah called Parshat Vayakhel, and it commences with the words Vayakhel Moshe et kol hadat bnei Yisrael. Moshe congregated the entire assembly of the people of Israel. In one single verse, two different terms are used for a gathering of Jewish people: Kehillah and Eidah. Kehillah we translate as being congregation, Eidah as an assembly. Vayakhel Moshe et kol hadat. Moses congregated the assembly. So what's the difference between a Kehillah and an Eidah? Why did Moses congregate the assembly, and why didn't he assemble the congregation? So let's understand. An Eidah is a group of people who happen to be in one place at one time for one purpose. They might never have come together before. They might never see each other again in their lives, but right now they are there for one and the same event. A good example of an Eidah is the audience in the theater. Now, in the Eidah setting, when you come to take your place, is it expected of you that you say to the person next to you, "Good evening"? I don't think it's expected of you, but if you do say that, it's nice. And having sat down after saying good evening, is it expected of you that you say, "So how are you? How's the family? How are the kids? How's work?" It's somewhat intrusive. And if after that you say, "After the show, would you like to come to our house for coffee?" Well, that is definitely going too far. A Kehillah is something very different. A Kehillah is a congregation of like-minded individuals who share a vision for the future. They have come together on many occasions in the past. They will assemble on many occasions in the future. They love each other's company. They're not just there, happening to be in one place at one time. They're experiencing the thrill of the congregational spirit. Now, within the Kehillah, when you take your seat, is it expected of you that you say, "Good Shabbos"? Yes. And you'll get a hearty good Shabbos in return. Is it expected of you that you say, so how are you, how are the kids, how are the family? Of course. And it's expected of you regardless of where you happen to be in the service at that time. And in addition, if you say, so after the service, would you like to come home for Kiddush, for a bracha? Oh, that would be absolutely wonderful, because that's what a kehillah is about. Now Moses, at Mount Sinai, did something quite remarkable. Vayakel Moshe et kol adat bnei Israel. Moshe transformed an Eidah into a veritable kehillah. In Egypt, we happened to be an assembly of people who were descended from the same ancestors. Moshe Rabbeinu molded us into a Mamlechet Kohanim, V'goy Kadosh, a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. He created a kehillah. Because through the Torah, we have a common mission. And we share a vision for the future. And we enjoy each other's company and the thrill of being part of a viable and thriving community. Let me share with you the story of George W. Bush, which never happened, which highlights for us, I suppose it could have happened, and that's what the story is about. It highlights for us what a true kehillah is about. So it's told of George W. Bush that on one occasion he called in his top advisors, and he said to them, I'm absolutely convinced that the Jewish world has a network of information. They said, what are you talking about? He says, I can't work it out. So soon after we make decisions here in the White House, already in the cabinet's table in Jerusalem, they know all about it. There must be some secret Jewish network of information. The advisor said, Mr. President, you're just dreaming. What's all this? He said, no. I want you to do some research. Come back to me in a week's time and report to me. After a week, they came back to him. They said, Mr. President, you're right. There is an international network of Jewish information. He said, what's it called? They said, Shul. He said, what is Shul? They said, it's a Jewish synagogue. So he said, well, how does this work? So they said, well, what happens is that in a Jewish synagogue on a Saturday morning, a man comes inside. As he's taking his seat, he says to the person next to him, "Nu, what's new?" And that person tells him the latest news. A few minutes later, another person comes in, he asks, "Nu, what's new?" And he gets the latest news. Then they chat. After the service, there's something called a bracha. The president says, "What's a bracha?" Well, really they eat and drink, but the true purpose is to network, to pull all the information together. And from there they go to other brachas in private homes and to lunches, and then they have an evening meal called Sudash Lishit. And then as soon as the Sabbath is over, they pick up the phones, they call their relatives in New York and in Sydney, in Vancouver, in Toronto and in Jerusalem. And before you know it, the whole Jewish world knows all the news. The president says, "I have to see this for myself." They say, "Well, you can't." He said, No, please arrange it. This is amazing. I have to see this for myself, so they have no choice. They gave him a few weeks of preparation. They kitted him out with a lovely phony beard, nice kippah, taught him how to put the clip inside, taught him how to put on a tallis. One Shabbos morning, the president arrives at the Young Israel community in Brooklyn, New York. He walks inside at 10:15. His advisors told him that's the time most people come. He stands next to an empty seat, puts his tallis, tosses it over his shoulder, the real McCoy, mumbles a few words, he sits down, he says to the fellow next to him, "Nu, what's new?" The man goes, "Shh." The president says, "Nu, what's new?" The man goes, "Shh." The president says, "Is there no news today?" The man says, "Of course there's news today. Haven't you heard? The president himself is coming to our shul." Now that is a kehillah. We daven. We're in communication with God. We're spiritual. We're holy. And we have a strong connection with the people sitting next to us. We're part of a very special bond. We identify strongly with kehillah, with community. It enhances our lives. It's something that our families are proud to be part of. Ivdu et Hashem b'simcha, we serve God with joy through that special privilege of the Kehillah experience. Now, it's very important for the success of the Kehillah that every single person should be included. I'm very fortunate, having grown up in South Africa, to be part of the English Orthodox model. The English Orthodox model is everybody's welcome into our Orthodox shuls. You don't have to be from in order to join in order to come. In so many North American Orthodox Kehillahs, for example, there is an exclusivist approach. There, in so many communities, Orthodox means from. But we take Orthodox literally, because the Greek orthodoxos means thinking correctly, not orthopraxis, which means doing things correctly. We are genuinely Orthodox. We think correctly. We might do something with our vehicular contraption around the corner. We might, who knows what, but we identify strongly with what is right. And what that therefore means is that within our communities, the English Orthodox model around the world, there is hope for people because everybody's welcome. And we don't check tzitzis at the door. And we don't ask how many Glad Gemara have you learned. And therefore you can have somebody who's studied in yeshiva and kollel for 20 years, sitting next to somebody who's come just to say Kaddish once a year. They are equals. They're all part of our community. And that's what's so special about our communities. We leave it up to God to judge individuals. You know, in the Psalms that we say on Friday night, we declare, Ohave Hashem sin ura. Those who love the Lord hate evil. We don't say Ohave Hashem sin ura sha'im. Those who love the Lord hate the evil, the bad people, because we don't know who's bad. Well, you think somebody's bad? Do you know what you yourself are doing? You know? Who am I to judge other people? We leave it up to God to judge. There are so many difficult and trying and challenging circumstances that people confront. We need to reach out with genuine Ahavat Yisrael, love of our fellow Jewish person, and bring everybody into Shul. There's a fascinating Mishnah in Masechet Sotah. The Mishnah describes the period of time immediately before the coming of the Mashiach. The Atchalta de Geula, when the footsteps of the Mashiach are visible. And the Mishnah gives some signs. One of the signs is Pnei Hador Kifnei HaKelev. That generation will have the appearance of a dog. What does that mean, the appearance of a dog? The Kotzker Rebbe explains that the term Pnei also means the leadership. Pnei Hador Kifnei HaKelev means the leaders of that generation will be like dogs. And explains the Kotzker Rebbe, when a shepherd takes his sheep and he looks after them and he tends for their needs, he takes a sheepdog with him. The role of the shepherd is to look after those sheep who want to graze, who want to drink, who are loyal to him, who will follow his lead. The role of the sheepdog is to stand on the periphery to guarantee that all the sheep stay within the fold. And if there is one little shepsela that will stray, the sheepdog will run after it to try and bring it back. Said the Kotzker Rebbe, the traditional spiritual leader of the Jewish people has been Ro'eh Ne'eman Ladato, the faithful shepherd of our nation. But he says, the time will come. This was said some 150 years ago. The time will come when there will need to be a new type of spiritual leader of the Jewish people who will take on the role of the sheepdog, whose prime effort will be to keep Jewish people within the fold, to guarantee that they won't stray. And if some do, with love and passion, he will try to bring them back. The role of the rabbi who is like the sheepdog is not to make Rosh Yeshivas and rabbis, but hopefully to see people one day getting married under a chuppah, so that they'll continue, them and their children and their grandchildren, to be part of Am Yisrael. And haven't we exactly seen in our time the birth of a new type of rabbi? The rabbi who works for Kiruv organizations, for the Lubavitch movement. The one who operates to try and create as many Baalei Tshuva as possible, something which didn't exist at the time when I was growing up here in Cape Town. But I believe that our pulpit rabbis, our community rabbis, need to be the fusion of the shepherd and the sheepdog. To be committed both to those who are interested, who are coming, who are committed, and also to those whom we don't see, who are equally parts of our community. Through the Shul, we should find the means to engage with every single precious Jewish person and to let them all know that they are equally at home within the walls of our Beit Knesset, our house of Jewish gathering. And speaking about all people, it's important as well that women should know that they're equally included. We have a proud tradition. We have a Masorah. We have Torah law, which we are privileged to carry out and to be the champions of. And within Torah law, we must guarantee that women feel as included as possible. Let me give you one example, which I've been thinking about a lot. Baruch Hashem, I go to so many communities, so many synagogues. And I've started to think, if I was a woman, what would it be like for me sitting in the area allocated for women? And if I would share with you my answer, which I'm going to know, it's not a very happy answer. I just wouldn't like to sit where they sit in many of our shuls. So as a result, I've told all of our communities in the UK, no shul is going to be built, and no design is going to be rearranged in any of our shuls without consulting with me. I want to be part of it. You can't build new structures on the old lines with women up in the guards. We have to be inclusive, to let people know that there is a proper way of running services, but that doesn't mean to say that any person should feel that they're kind of a second-class citizen. And so too when it comes to community leadership. I'm proud of the fact that I introduced as chief rabbi. One of my first moves was one to guarantee that women can be trustees, the leaders of our United Synagogue and chairmen of our communities. And I'm particularly happy that just a few months ago, together with our London Beit Din, we introduced the Mayan program. So Rabbi Thurgood referred to my appointment of the first Yoetzet Halakha, which was in Finchley Synagogue some 4 years ago, an incredible success. And what we found was that if you have a woman available to field the questions of women on areas relating to Taharat Mishpacha, family purity, more women ask questions. Because the reality is that some feel a bit embarrassed, ill at ease, approaching a rabbi about their personal and private issues. And this development in our community has strengthened observance of Taharat Mishpacha. So the Beit Din and I have now introduced the Mayan project. In September, we're starting an 18-month program. In 2 years' time, we will have over 10 women available to our communities, who will be both Yoetzet Halakha and also top educators. So that in the community you'll have senior rabbi, assistant rabbi, Mayan. That our communities will know we value women, we value their leadership, they've got something to give. We treasure halakha, and within that halakha we will find a way to let men as well know that there's a lot we can learn from women. And they have a role to play in an acceptable manner according to halakha in our communities. So within the dynamic of the Beit Knesset, the house of gathering, we want everybody to feel equally welcome, to enjoy our services and our Kehillah style of life. The second term we give to an edifice such as this is Beit Tefillah, which is a house of prayer. And that's the obvious one. We come here to daven. But you know, we need to ask ourselves questions related to our style of tefillah. Is it right for the people of today? And there is no one-size-fits-all. It depends on the community, the age profile of the community, the type of people you have in the community. But if I would generalize, I would say in the Jewish world today, the older members of our community love to come to have a performance. To hear somebody else davening for them. The great chazan, the lovely choir. They enjoy it, and that's the style which should be continued in those congregations. The younger elements within our community only come if there's something in it for them. We're facing a younger generation today of people who are so spoilt with what they have literally at their fingertips. They can be mesmerized by what they see in the palm of their hand. We are therefore competing with the most sophisticated forms of entertainment, thrilling experiences that have ever existed. And as a result, people will only come to Shul, the younger people, if there's something in it for them. There was a time when people came to Shul because it was the right thing to do, the loyal thing to do. I will sit in the seat of my late father, the grandfather, I will sit in the seat of this mother. I come because I'm loyal, because it's the right thing. Young people don't think like that anymore. They'll come if there's something in it for them. So we have to appeal to that. And what primarily appeals to them is a service within which they are part. And the role, therefore, of the Chazan is not primarily to give a performance, but instead primarily to bring the community to engage in genuine davening. As important as a rabbi is standing on the pulpit when it comes to our Shabbos and Yom Tov services, the man on the bimah is more important than the man on the pulpit. Because the Chazan sets the tone of the service. He's the anchor of the service. He'll either include the community or he'll exclude them. He'll make them happy or he'll bore them to tears. And that shouldn't be happening. Because of this, I've changed our direction relating to bar mitzvahs. It's quite a brave initiative. I announced already half a year ago that 2 years after half a year ago, in the UK, our bar mitzvahs will now be primarily davening focused and not maftir haftorah focused. Because I've been doing a lot of thinking. What happens with bar mitzvahs in so many of our communities? For 15 months, a kid learns how to do something which will take him 20 minutes to do, and he won't do it again in his life. Is that good education? In sporting terms, it's a very long run-up for a very short jump. Wouldn't it be better utilizing that time to teach him how to daven, how to lead a service? And he'll lead a service on his bar mitzvah, and for the rest of his life, if he knows how to lead a service, he'll know how to follow a service. And he can come into any shul, any part of the world, and he'll feel at home. So that's what we're now going to do. And I'm calling it's happening in a month's time, the first convention of bar mitzvah teachers to address them. This is what I would like for you, not to replace maftir haftorah. We'll have maftir haftorah. And please God, we'll have ladies of the future who'll be our balei kriya. In addition to that, I would love to see boys on a Thursday morning, on a Monday morning, Rosh Chodesh morning, Friday night maybe, Shabbos mincha, Shabbos morning, that they can daven, that they can lead a service. And it's so important for women as well to be able to follow the service. And you know, bat mitzvah girls are lucky. The bar mitzvah boys just go over and over and over and over the same sukkah and the lane and this and that. Bat mitzvah girls around our world, they have a course of instruction, they engage, they learn. But what are they learning? Included in their syllabus, we need to have a strong component of davening, of what the service is about, finding a way around the siddur. And as a result, our services will be meaningful. I want to share an anecdote which I often think about. When I was rabbi in Finchley, we staged many Shabbatonim. In fact, we had 12 in a row, 12 annual Shabbatonim, retreats for more than 200 people away from the community. And between Mincha and Ma'ariv on Shabbos, I always had exactly the same program. We all gathered together, and the theme was inspirational moments in my life. And different people would come forward to share inspirational moments of their life. So one year, Mike Abrams, a member of the Shul, he said, I'd like to share with you an inspirational moment of my life. So he said he was living in London. He was 17 years old. And one Friday afternoon, he was a member of Bnei Akiva. There were 5 of them in the car. There was one who was old enough to drive. They were on their way from London to Bournemouth, where there had been some kosher hotels at the time. And they were going for a Shabbaton of Bnei Akiva movement. And while they were on the way, the traffic became worse and worse and worse. And at a certain point, they realized they weren't going to get to Bournemouth before Shabbos. So one of them thought he saw a sign to Portsmouth. If they would go to Portsmouth instead, they would get there before Shabbos. And that's what they did. On the way, they stopped at a phone box, if you remember what those things used to be. They made a call through to the Chevra at Bournemouth. They said, we can't make it. They were upset. The Chevra were upset. A few minutes before Shabbos, the car parks outside the Portsmouth Shul. It was the middle of winter. They come inside. They were taken into the Shtibel, the Beit Midrash, Minyan room, whatever you want to call it. And there weren't many people there. They told them their story. And the people of Portsmouth said, you know, we'd love to help you. We'd love you to come to our homes for a meal, but we're not kosher and we live too far away for you. But you know what? You can sleep in the cheder and you can eat some of the food from the Kiddush. It was winter. He said it was the worst Shabbos of my life. Now, don't forget the theme was inspiring moments. Anyway, he said it was the worst Shabbos of my life. We didn't even have blankets. It was a freezing floor. All the time I was thinking of how I would have been enjoying myself in Bournemouth. The Kiddush food wasn't great. And then we had the next day. And as soon as Shabbos was over, we jumped in the car and we went to Bournemouth. Fast forward 25 years. He says he was visiting Kibbutz Lavi in Israel. And he was in somebody's flat on the kibbutz. And they went round the group, how did I become dati? Each person there was describing how they became frum. Came to a certain man, and he said, I want to tell you how I became dati. You see, he said, I'm from Portsmouth. And he said, my father used to force me to go to Shul every Friday night. I hated it. He says, one Friday night, I don't know where these people came from. There were 5 of them. They came inside. One led the service. The others were singing. He knew later on that there was a word for it. It's called ruach. Then he didn't know. And he said to his father afterwards, Daddy, that was the best service I've ever had. Can we come back tomorrow morning? And he said, my father said, no, I'm going to work and there's no way I can bring you. And I pleaded him, please, please, Daddy. So my father said, all right. Now he was putting pressure on his father to come to Shul. So his father came and he said, Shabbos morning again, it was the same thing. One led the service, they were singing, it was amazing. And then they had something called Sudash Lishit, they'd never heard of before. And the singing there was unbelievable. He never forgot that Shabbos. And as a result, when he went to university, he joined the Jewish Society, he went on Shabbos to services, went to Shiurim, and he said, that Shabbos in Portsmouth, he says, I don't know who those people were. That's really what made me frum. So Mike Abrams, just by chance, found out 25 years later why he had that experience in Portsmouth. By the way, there's a lesson for life here, an overall lesson for life. And that is often some of the worst experiences we have are there for a good reason. God knows why they are necessary to take place. Only in rare circumstances will we be able to find out what door was opened because of that door which was closed, which was slammed closed in our face. Most often, we will never find out. Apart from that, there's a powerful message here about davening, about ruach, about what we're exposing our children to, about the spirit of our services. And again, I stress, it depends on the community and the age profile and the interests of the community. But certainly we do need to focus more on ruach, on having a beautiful spirit, of engaging people in the community to sing, rather than to listen to somebody who's davening on their behalf. So crucial is the tefillah in our shuls. We want people to wake up on a Shabbos morning to say, I want to go to shul because I love it. Because if I don't go, I'll be missing out. If people aren't able to say that, looking to the future, they will just stop, God forbid, coming to shul. Because loyalty doesn't exist in the younger age group anymore. And now I come to the third term we give to the edifice of God, which is shul, school. Talmud Torah keneged kulam. The study of Torah equals them all. It's the essence of our lives, and it's the essence of our communities. The more Torah study you have in the shul, the stronger the Jewish consciousness there will be within the community. The more committed people will be to Torah and mitzvot. Therefore, we need to transform houses of prayer into powerhouses of Jewish religious, social, cultural, and educational excellence. We have to have tip-top educational programs. I had incredible siyata d'shmaya, help from heaven, when I was the rabbi at Finchley. I introduced something on Yom Kippur days, which was a Q&A with the rabbi. So for the hour between Musaf and Mincha, I invited everybody. I said, you might want to go home, have a stroll, get some fresh air. If you want, stay in the shul. You can throw any questions at me that you want. After a few years, the shul was so packed for that one single hour. It was a highlight. And I was asking myself, why was that Q&A with the rabbi such a highlight for people? And the answer was, because it was the only thing they could understand. And also, there was a novelty factor there. They didn't know what was coming next. It was unpredictable. So people were committing themselves to an entire day engaging with Judaism, and thankfully there was 1 hour in that day which made it worthwhile for them, because the rest of it was just kind of being there. And I thought to myself, wow, first of all we have to do something with Yom Kippur, and then we have to do something on weekdays. So for Yom Kippur, I created the following system, which thank God is spread now to other communities. Throughout the whole day of Yom Kippur, we have a parallel track. In Kinlos, we have 6 events, from mid-morning all the way till the end of the fast. An explanatory service, options of lectures on this subject or that subject, panel discussions. You could go into Shul, or you could go into this hall or that facility to hear the parallel session. After all, people are showing that commitment, they're crossing the threshold. Let's give them an experience of value to make them feel proud of their Yiddishkeit. And you know what surprised me so much? So many of my regulars on Shabbos in Shul would go to the explanatory service because they can't even read Hebrew. And they need to learn a lot. So we need to educate people. And that worked wonderfully, Baruch Hashem. And then I thought, how can we bring people through the doors on a weekday so that they'll have the courage to cross that threshold, because often that's what's necessary. How can we create an educational program that won't scare people away? Shouldn't sound too frum, shouldn't sound too Jewish. Strange saying that, but so we created KLC, the Kinlos Learning Center. 16 events on one night. 8 in the first half, 8 in the second half, a break in the middle, a kind of a midweek bracha, pulling everybody together. Baruch Hashem, we got hundreds of people week after week, lasting for many years. And the prime options were Israeli dancing for women, Hebrew Ulpan, kosher cooking. The most popular course I ran was how to create a Friday night dinner only for men. Only for men. So that men could learn how to cook a Friday night dinner. All the wives sent their husbands to it. Films on Jewish themes. Jewish history. What does Judaism say about? And together with that, Parshat HaShavua, Chumash, various other things, Talmud. People were in one session this, the other session the other. And Baruch Hashem, through KLC, we then created the Kinlos College, one level up. A thriving, wonderful home of Torah. And then when becoming chief rabbi, I thought, God has given me an opportunity to try and do this in other communities. And there was one experience that I had. I was mentoring a younger rabbi. This was about 15 years ago. He was a rabbi of a small United Synagogue community on the periphery of London. And he had a problem with his shul. He had had an idea to have a Friday night dinner for people under the age of 50s. He had a group of 50 or so, and the gap between what people were willing to pay and what it would cost was £5 a head. So he needed £250 to stage this first ever Shabbat dinner. He went to the treasurer of the shul, he said, we're in deficit, we don't have the money. He went to the chairman, sorry, we don't have a budget for this. He went to this person, that person, we don't have the money. They didn't have the £250, the idea stayed in his head, his community stayed on the launch pad and never experienced it. So on becoming chief rabbi, I thought to myself, wouldn't it be great if I could create a fund which would hand out £250 here and £500 there and a few £1,000 the other place, to enable rabbis to be empowered to translate their dreams into reality. And Baruch Hashem, we created it 1.5 years ago. It's called the Center for Rabbinic Excellence. A very substantial fund, monies for which I raised. And so far, over 70 communities in the UK have staged more than 160 events. The condition for this is it has to be a Kiddush. It has to be new, never done before. And through these events, we have empowered people to think more broadly. And they have got donations from their community. We provide the seed funding. So we give them the ideas, and we give them the funds to carry it out. And they're finding match funding from their communities. There is a new creative spirit. And Baruch Hashem, the landscape of the Orthodox community is changing, thanks to this appetite for new programming. And the communities are starting to realize what previously they were in deficit for, they didn't have the budget for, now they're finding the budget for adult education, for programming, because they realize that is the essence of what a genuine kehillah is about. It needs to be a shul. It needs to be a place where you learn. It needs to be a place where there is Talmud Torah, because that's the only way through which we can take our communities forward. So therefore, bringing everything together, it is so important that we have a Beit Knesset, a genuine house of gathering, a kehillah spirit, where we have the fun, new what's news, and everything that goes with it for our strong Jewish identity. It's so crucial that we have a Beit Tefillah where we have genuine davening. Because with all the brachas in the world, and with all the cultural activities, if you don't have the real thing there, it's all going to collapse within a certain amount of time. We need great ruach, we need to feel God, we need to speak about emunah, about faith. So many of our rabbis have dropped the G word. They don't speak about God anymore. That He's the essence of everything. And we have to teach people to have faith once again and to connect with HaKadosh Baruch Hu through tefillah. And our shuls need to be great places of learning. And if I would put everything in a nutshell, it relates to the key terms we give to time during the year. They are Shana and Chodesh. Shana, a year, comes from the Hebrew which means repetition. Veshinantam levanecha. You will teach your children by rote, by repeating again and again. So Shana means Shinun, which means repetition. That's what a Shana, a year, is. Year in and year out, the same months, the same seasons, the same festivals. A year means a repetition of what has happened before. Within the Shana, which never changes, you have Chodesh, from Chadash, from Chidush. The moon renews itself. There is renewal. There is something that is new and fresh going on. And as a people, we are blessed to have the Shana of our lives, which is the Torah. The Torah never changes. It's the ultimate gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because it's the eternally true, authentic recipe for meaningful life. And within the Torah that never changes, we have to find the chidush, presentational differences. How to use a shul, how to use education to match the needs of our time. Not to use the same old methodology, because it just won't work with our generation. We need that chidush within the Shana. And this is exactly what we are launching this evening. It is an educational program for adults, provided by my dear Avi Mori, my father, Rabbi Dr Lionel Mirvis, which will utilize our ancient and ever-relevant sources to provide inspiration for today and for the years to come. To show how relevant and timely Torah is within timeless periods. And to show how with appropriate presentation we can guarantee interest. We can compete with the best that is out there, because ultimately we've got the truth and we've got a book from HaKadosh Baruch Hu which beats them all, which is our Torah HaKadosha. So I wish you well for everything that's happening here in this shul. Yeshakach for all your endeavors to date. Yeshakach for your vision of the future. This community is a great exemplar of everything that I've been speaking about this evening, as a Beit Knesset, as a Beit Tefillah, and as a shul. And I wish you well with the Daroma program, which brings the finest of Torah education here in Sea Point in Cape Town. May it be an enormous success, and my blessings to my dear father and to Razel, and to all of you, may you genuinely go Michael el Chayil, v'chin yiratzon v'nomar. Amen.
Thank you so much, Chief Rabbi, and if I may say, I hope that that everyone took away as much from that as I did. I've really got about 100 ideas running through my head, the first of which is an annual Shabbaton in Portsmouth with a Q&A, and if you could please fund it from that, I'm sure this hasn't been done before. But Rabbi, I remember from your inaugural speech, which I watched over YouTube, when you spoke about Gadlula Hashem Iti, that let us come together and give greatness to Hashem. That really is something that shines through in your whole presentation. And thank you very, very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me great pleasure now to call on really the man of the moment, Rabbi Dr Lionel Mirvis. Shlomo HaMelech said in the book of Kohelet, "V'boker zara zarecha u'be'arev lo tinach yadecha." In the morning sow your seed, and don't let your hand rest in the evening. In other words, this attitude of working, of producing, of creating throughout one's entire life. I read recently that the peak of creativity, of human creativity, usually occurs in one's 20s. But I think Rabbi Mirvis is proof of that you have individuals like the Mishnah Pukavot said, that are like springs that flow stronger and stronger. That as time goes by, there's just more and more creativity and more to share. Rabbi Dr. Mirvis has shared with me his excitement about this course and about the material and the things that he says that he's put together, that have taken him many years to collate everything and to create this system and this structure. And Rabbi, I really look forward to hearing about it. And thank you again for offering it here, and really is our privilege to be hosting it at Morasha. Thank you very much.
Shalom Aleichem. Good evening to all. At the outset, thank you very much to those in charge up there, right up there. I'm talking about Philip Weinstein and his team, who have made this come together. It's a wonderful thing. And I'm so impressed by the enthusiasm. Usually you find that the chairman of the Shul is thinking of anything but. In fact, I happened to be in Shul 2 Shabbatot ago. Believe it or not, I happened to be in Shul. And what was the chairman? He was making the announcements, and what was he talking about, and what was he thinking about? The rugby at the end of Shabbat. And thank God, Abdallah came before the recording of the match on TV. And it's so wonderful to see an enthusiastic lay committee interested in Torah, and then again the wonderful reception of the rabbi of this particular community. It is wonderful, you know. I'll let you in on a little secret. Rabbis resent rabbis. Which rabbis do they resent? The successful ones. It is so wonderful when we have a successful rabbi here, and he doesn't resent me from this. What does he think? I'm not a success. However, that is not the reception that I received. It's so wonderful that your Rabbi Sam Thurgood, is so good. In fact, I want to add to his name. He is good on Thursday, but tonight is Tuesday, so he'll also be too good. Let's come to the subject. But before I do so, between you and me, I'm awed. What am I awed by? I'm awed by the fact that I have to come up and say something to you after the chief rabbi of the British Empire. It is awesome. So how do I overcome this situation? I'll tell you what I'm going to be. I'm going to be myself. And then I can act as myself. What is a person? A person is a product of his parents. And thank you very much, Chief Rabbi, for acknowledging the fact that you are a product of your parents. And I'm grateful to you for the fact that you realize that and acknowledge it. I am the product of my parents. My late father's name was Eliezer, and therefore everybody knew him as Laser. My late mother, her name was Rachel, and everybody knew her as Ray. So what am I? I'm 100% Laser Rays. And as a result, this evening, I'm beaming. I was listening intently to what the Chief Rabbi had to say, and he emphasized most impressively, and he got through to you, the fact that we need chidushim, that we need something new, that we can't be with the old all the time. Now, we've already had a quotation from Kohelet. And what does Kohelet say? That there's ein chadash tachat hashemesh. There is nothing new under the sun. But this evening, this was disproved. Kohelet is wrong. There is so much new under the sun, under my sun. Daroma. Daroma has got nothing to do with the capital of Italy. It's not that Daroma which is coming here. What does Daroma mean? Daroma is to the south. Daroma south, Daroma to the south. Why? It relates to the Mishkan, to the tabernacle in the wilderness, and to the temple. In both the tabernacle and the temple, which is modeled on the tabernacle, you will find that in the south you have the menorah of light. And that light is so great that it influences and shines upon the whole world. And that light, as I said, is on the sun. And that light is not the light of the day and night, because that is the Shemesh. That light is the light of Chokhmah. And so therefore, our sages say that Misha Yachkim Yadrin, he who wants to be wise will turn to the south. Which way does the temple face? The temple, the opening of the temple faces east. And so you're facing east. The south is your right hand, your southpaw. So you are in Jerusalem, the site of the temple, you're facing east. Where is south? You take out your right hand, you push it that way, and you take a map and you look at the map and you go all the way down as far as you find land. And where do you land? In Arthur's Road, Sea Point. But some of you may say, wait a second, why Arthur's Road? Why not any one of the other shuls in Sea Point? And the answer is obvious. Because when you are in the temple, you're facing east. And east is the Mizrach. And so therefore, to the Mizrach is Mizrahi. And so we are here for Chokhmah. No place more appropriate than here, under the confines of this nucleus, under the confines of this Kehillah. This Kehillah which is improving and expanding. What is it that we have to offer? We learned from the chief rabbi what the big chokhmah is today. It is a bina, an understanding of what is happening in the world, a world which is changing so rapidly. Everything in the world is changing, but Judaism doesn't seem to be changing, and it has to change. You have a structure, you've got a basic structure, and in the same way as mankind as a whole has a basic structure and is changing, so must Judaism change to meet with the conditions of today. We have to grow, we can't be static, we have to be dynamic, otherwise we die. And so therefore, we need that da'at, we need that knowledge, we need the know-how, we need the skill, and that is really what it is. Where do we start? There must be some starting place. And so we go to the very beginning, where we have the beginning of what is da'at and what is knowledge, and we go to Gan Eden, into the very birthplace of mankind. And you know the story that God says to Adam, you know, you eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge, you will surely die. What kind of a story is this? You have knowledge and you die. What's going on here? It is a Rabbi Kohen Kook who explains that the Gan Eden is a place of the spirit, it's a place of energies, it's a place of particles, of particle fields, of particle waves. And man is totally spiritual. By eating of the fruit of the tree of knowledge, he becomes physical for the first time. And the moment he is physical, he has a physical body. And the moment he has a physical body, he goes through the cycle of birth and growing and ultimately leaving this world. You will surely die. But God also helps Adam on his way, the way of life which he now knows in the sense of time, to understand how to cope with the situation. And the moment Adam eats of that fruit, God says to him, Ayeka, where are you? What kind of a question is this? Does God not know where Adam is? Of course he knows. Why is he saying, Ayeka, where are you? No, I'm not talking about the Germans, Ayeka. Don't think it. Ayeka, where are you? And especially the way the word is spelt, the Hebrew. It's Ayeh and then a kaf hey. That is how it's spelled. And it is the Baal HaTanya who explains what's going on here. The Baal HaTanya says, God is asking Adam, where do you stand? Because if you know where you stand, then you know what life is all about. How do we understand the Baal HaTanya? The Baal HaTanya was in the 18th century. But it has taken now, in my time, in my lifetime, to discover really what the Baal HaTanya is trying to tell us. And what the implications are. Because it was in the 20th century that you had the beginning of what is known as quantum mechanics, about the energies in this world, the energies that keep us going. And one of the masters of quantum mechanics, one of the firsts, was Heisenberg, and he came along And he made a remarkable statement, and he said, there is nothing existing which is physical in this universe, which is living, that can be predicted. Any entity, physical entity, which is alive in this world, we don't know about the future of that entity. Even the entity himself or herself does not know what is going to happen. There's nothing predictable. We don't know the future. But there's a saving grace, and there are alternatives. Because there is time and there is place. And this is what Heisenberg says. If you fix the place, you don't know the time. If you fix the time, you don't know the place. And this is taken even to an atom. And some of us know, we were in school in the later years, we were up an atom about atoms. We learned there was a nucleus, and then there is a little proton, which is running around on the periphery, that has to be captured and has to be kept in by the nucleus. You know that little nucleus, that is the center of the shul, and that little proton running around. That's you and me. We have to be kept, and we have to be caught by the nucleus. And then Heisenberg says, that electron, not the proton, the protons are inside. The electron, that electron, if you fix the place of the electron, you don't know the time. The truth is, if you fix the place of the electron, you don't need to know the time, because you know all about the electron. The electron knows all about itself. And if the electron doesn't have time, you don't have problems. And that is the situation with each and every one of us. If we fix our place, we don't have problems about the future, because time doesn't come. And that is modern science. Why don't we take that modern science and apply it to our daily lives? That is what we should do. So we have to find that place. And the Torah already knows all about it, and this is the greatness of our Torah. The Torah has answers for what science hasn't even asked, the questions which science doesn't even know. The Torah has answers for, so it certainly has answers for the questions that we are asking today. About that place. That place has a name. It is the place. And what is the place? The place is Ha-Makom. And what is Hamakom? Hamakom, you've heard of it. Hamakom Yenachem Etachem. May the Makom comfort you. Hamakom is God as omnipresent. God who is always there, irrespective of time. Time doesn't exist in the presence of Hamakom. And in the Torah we learn about Yaakov, for example. He came upon Makom, he came upon the omnipresent, and he had that wonderful dream of getting to heaven. If you find that place, if you find Hamakom, you are in the presence of God, you are in the presence of eternity. Time doesn't come. That's all you have to do. And that is where Daroma starts. To show you how to find that Makom. Because the moment you have found that Makom, and you have found Hamakom, you have found divinity as the omnipresent one who is always there, immediately we are a part of the Shul as a learning place. We are part of the Shul as a Bet Tefillah. We are part of the Shul as a place where we come together. It all depends upon that Makom, that place. And that is where Daroma starts. And we're going to start with 4 introductory talks. For 4 weeks on Tuesday evening. Next week, the week after, the week after that, the week after that. Every Tuesday evening, you'll have the introductory series. And you will introduce to that Makom. Now, to find that Makom, you have to find this Makom. Jy moet dit maak om. And so therefore, you know, there's a custom, an old custom, that after you eat, you bench. Here, you find the bench place, and then you will eat of Torah. Come, try it out, feel it for the next few weeks. What is the subject? The mind as a human time machine. A human time machine which can take you anywhere irrespective of time. In fact, a human time machine can go faster than the speed of light. And by the way, you can't go faster than the speed of light. So how can you go faster than the speed of light? Come here next week and you'll find it. We invite you to find this place, to find your place, to find your place within this place. You will never be displaced in your life again. You'll be able to participate in the full-length program which will be presented from August onward as a daily, weekly, whatever you want, right here under the auspices of Morasha. And this has been possible only thanks, first of all, to the management, secondly, to the rabbi, thirdly, to two wonderful people who already are cooperating with me, Diane and Leonard, and they are here. They are motivators with me to start the program. There will be more motivators, and we will revolutionize this place which will be an eternal place. Please register now, register for the next 4 weeks, and you will never regret it all your life. Thank you very much.